Oh, blessed love to each and every one. Salamta. Give thanks. You're in the tiger's nest, glorifying Haile Selassie the first in all good doings and sayings. Of course, the Honorable Priest Isaac here with you. And this is our presentation for this evening as promised. Our YouTube lecture presentation. And we will be going into Rastafari and the pyramids. And let me say, this is really a special evening as well. It is a celebration evening on different angles, different meditation, actually. Today being the 31st day of May, actually is the 7th anniversary of myself being, not the 7th, pardon me, the 20th anniversary of myself being crowned a prophet within the Congress, which you could say that is the initial official step of you as a male being becoming a member. That is when you officially become a member of the Congress, when you are officially crowned. So this day represents that for me, the 20th anniversary, not the 7th. What stood out with the 7th now is because on that day that I was crowned, it was the 7th anniversary, being the 31st of May, from when the Honorable King Emmanuel Charles Edwards would have rested the structure. And that is how we refer to it as. And this transition now would have, as it would have appeared, taken place on the 31st of May as well, 1994. And interestingly, that was like the very same time that you could say I was picking up my vibes and checking the reality of the world. And as I said, 7 years after that, I was at Bobo Shanti Hill. And interestingly, it's not just that we are at Bobo Shanti Hill, but we were literally crowned in the palace of the Honorable King Emmanuel Charles Edwards, which is obviously a great honor at the same time. So we are very thankful for this day and this moment, and even the day and the moment, there are other mystics around it, because some people actually acknowledge this day, the 31st of May, again, as the actual Earthday of the very same man. I'm speaking of the Honorable King Emmanuel Charles Edwards, 1914. Yes, we do know that it is 1914 that, according to his words, and some documents have 1914/15, that he came. He has been asked of his birth several times, and his word is that he came in 1914. I've never seen a date attached to it. And then at the same time, one would testify that there's never been a day where there's have been any celebration or vibration around the born day of King Emmanuel Charles Edwards, and the most we know, and we know the Emperor's Earthday, Messiah Garvey's Earthday, Christmas, the 7th of January. We've done programs on that, even highlighting it with the Earth Day of Lalibela. And I always tell ones, do not overlook that day, that specific date. Because, we're not in no spooky thing and nobody come out of thin air, So there must be one of the days in that solar calendar that represents the boundary of the Black Christ. And we already celebrate the 7th of January. But as I said recently, the 31st of May, I mean, I don't have no strong evidence for this. I can point you to the source and reference too, of course. I'm sure many of you have read the book, The Black Christ, Seven Revealed. And this is highlighted in that book as well, as it relates to the 31st of May. Today, actually being the Earth Day of Uncle Manny, as he's referred to as in some circles as well as King Emmanuel Charles Edward. So that be so we know for sure 1994 when that's interesting. Yeah, world tour, the real thing. We know for sure that Emmanuel live it every time. And that's 1994, 31st of May. And again, 2001, 31st of May, we were crowned in the palace. Two psalms read over crowning, interestingly, including Psalms 133. Yes, as well. How good and how pleasant. So, as I said, this evening now, as promised, we will be going into the pyramid and Rastafari. And of course, this is just really somewhat of a forerunner to the dynamic lecture that we will be having on Wednesday being the 2nd of June, which is the Mystery of the Ark. Now, the Mystery of the Ark, this is an online lecture. Remember that this is an online lecture. So definitely you could refer to it as pay-per-view. How does that sound? It's a while I haven't really heard that term. But this is Wednesday evening. This will be live now. And this is 7 p.m. sharp, Eastern time, 7 p.m. sharp. And of course, you could register by contacting us via the email. Very important, and this is very important. Even if you make your payments using the Cash App, we are asking you for sure that you contact us via the email. Very important. This is how you would get your key as well to enter into the lecture on Wednesday evening. Your electronic key, as I said, the lecture Mystery of the Ark, approximately 2 hours long. Well, 2 hours long specifically, because when the 2 hours is up, the website actually will literally stop as such. And so we fill that up with information and inspiration. All right. Now, the Great Pyramid of Giza. And you may ask, well, why would you want to connect Rastafari in general with the Great Pyramid? Well, it's not me wanting to connect or anything of the sort. It's just what it is. So before we, break down all of the vibration, let us give a good idea of what we're speaking of when we speak of the Great Pyramid of Giza and why it's important to the discussion. I hope you have your chalice. Now, times of the night make these sound. Ring the bells of Zion, there's joy today. A wanderer is returned from the wild. Give thanks to the 20th anniversary, man, of officially returning from the wild. Now, Northeast Africa, the area that we call Egypt today, that area in the ancient time was referred to as Tameri. It was referred to as Kemet. The full region would be Smite-Tawe, and of course the ancient land of the Bo. I know you know of the land of the Bo, the same Bobo people. Now, the Pyramid of Giza within itself rests along the bank of the River Nile. You know that the River Nile itself represents the celestial movements of the heavens. The River Nile represents the celestial Milky Way. When the Bible speaks of this land with the river flowing with milk and honey, well, for sure, this is the river of milk because it's perfectly aligned with the celestial river of milk, which is the Milky Way. So the Great Pyramid of Giza would be seen here to the northwest of the banks of the River Nile in ancient Kemet. Now let us just, take a quick look and get an understanding. Let us look at this on an archaeological level and have an understanding of at least how it is put forward in contemporary science. Now, this is very important. Whatever your belief is, it's very important, I would say, that you have a good grasp on what the contemporary information is, what is accepted by by general knowledge. And even if you, with your own research, would realize that, hey, this date ain't correct, where they say this happened, that ain't where it really happened, at least you'll be able to balance. So when you come to the table of discussion, you understand what they teach and you understand the truth. Let us continue. So what we have here now, we're looking at the pyramid, the pyramid text. This is in the temple of Unas. This is the pyramid text of Unas. Now, the pyramid text, all of this is in Egypt, in Kemet. The pyramid text is considered to be the origin of all religious writings. It is not the origin of writing, but the origin of all religious writings. But the language that is used in the pyramid text, or the script that is used in the pyramid text, is definitely, as far as our understanding, the origin of writing and a language as it relates to civilization. So it's not just markings on caves or on a bone, of which is still a high standard too, when we talk about the Shango bone and the Labamba bone and these, so it's pronounced, these bones that deal with the whole calendrical cycle of the moon, very high, but that's not necessarily a language. So if we're going to deal with it on a scientific level, we see that language, an expression of language using a script and everything, it came definitely at its climax when it was expressed in the pyramid text. Because even prior to this, this is not where Medu Neter began. Remember, even in the south, up south in the kingdom of Nyam, which is going like 10,000 years BC, 10,000 years BC, and Tara Seti, which is like 8,000 years BC, we already saw the Medu Neter being used. But then now when it came into the unification, follow me, man, the unification, what's unification, my brother? The unification is when what is known as Upper Egypt and Lower Egypt, and Upper Egypt would also include some parts of Nubia too, came as one under the Egyptian pharaoh, or the Kemetic Nesut, known as Menes. Some say that he's the same Nama, and he actually united the two lands. And it is from that point, coming into the first and second, third dynasty, into the Old Kingdom, where you actually see this spread of culture and civilization that we have come to love today, going into the Pyramid Ages, or the Pyramid Age. Good. Now, even ages, because the Pyramid Age is really spanned. If it's an age, it's a long age, because we have pyramids in many parts of the world, which we will get into. All right. Now, so I'm saying that, so after the pyramid text now, which is not just the structure I'm looking at, but even the writing and the connection with the heavens. All of this is very important for our discussion this evening. So you have the stars definitely highlighted in the heavens, and of course the ancient writing of the text. Good. Now, this is the expression of what is known as a mastaba. And the mastaba, they're like temples, and in many cases used as in the whole necropolis, pardon me, of the king or any ancient noble one, or anyone that could deal with it on this level. So it's like a tomb, the mastaba, and its expression is like this. You see it here. It's built with the bricks, but you have a passageway that goes underneath to a tomb. This one is like built for two. So within the first and the second dynasty, as I said, we are coming from 3,200, 3,100 BCE. So we are coming up the line. So it's 3,000 BCE, 2,900 BCE. Around this time, you have the construction of the mastaba. But you could just look at the mastaba and see that the continuation of elevation gives you something similar to what the world refers to as the first pyramid, which is the step pyramid of Zoja. Now, the step pyramid of Zoja, this is not the step pyramid in its early stages. This is a mastaba. You would see several of these around. But then in the time of King Zoja now, we're somewhere around 2800, 2700 BCE. You see the establishment of what is known as the step pyramid of Zoja, King in the third dynastic period. This within itself has its own mystics and its own vibes. And keep in mind, as you're keeping notes, pardon me, this is considered as the first pyramid. Now, that's debatable for sure. Even the Great Pyramid, you know, we can argue that the Great Pyramid is actually older than all pyramids, you know. But in the chronological line of history and archaeology, it's not. You know, so if you go to the university and you talk about the Great Pyramid is the first pyramid, they'll say you're Suda, you know, and they'll give you the exact date and Khufu built it. Even that is debatable. But tonight, to be very honest, I want to keep it as academical as we can, or on the academics, I should say, the academics and even the university knowledge, just to prove exactly how much of a link we have with agency. But anyway, let's continue. So after King Zoja's temple now, you have King Sneferu, who created what is known as the Bent Pyramid. And many teach that the Bent Pyramid now, when he was building the Bent Pyramid, contemporary knowledge, when he was building the Bent Pyramid, he noticed that he began wrong and the angle would not really be, suffice for what he wants to build, because this is high mathematics. This ain't just building and getting bricks and putting it together and let's stack them up and, you know, build a big mastaba. No, man. This is science. Remember, these pyramids are not just big. They are made and in a way wherein they are connected to the movements of the heavens. So there's some science about this that modern archaeologists have not discovered. Modern astronomers have not discovered. So they will tell you that, oh, when he reached halfway, he decided that, listen, man, this ain't the way I want to build it. Instead of us mashing it up, let us just switch the angle. And this has become an extremely unique temple in the planet, the Bent Pyramid. And obviously it has its own celestial connection just because of the way it was built. Anyway, after that, Sneferu brought what is known as the Red Pyramid. And many ones consider that the Red Pyramid now was the first perfect pyramid. All of this is in Saqqara, keep in mind. So the Red Pyramid is considered to be the perfect pyramid, the first perfect pyramid after the failed trial of the Bent Pyramid. And of course, King Zoja not necessarily failed trial, but his own rendition of the extended mastaba as such, which is known as the step pyramid. All right, good. So now after Sneferu, his son, which is the great King Khufu, when he came to power now in Kemet, so we still, you know, third dynasty, we still 2800, 2600 BCE, and the great King Khufu developed and built the Great Pyramid that what we consider the Great Pyramid today. You know, sometimes we may say the same pyramid that you see on the dollar bill, and sometimes that is just to let someone understand exactly what a pyramid is. It's not everyone really maybe penetrating that. But the pyramid on the dollar bill, although we didn't pull that up on the slide, I'm sure you have a dollar bill you could look at. The pyramid on the dollar bill is not necessarily the pyramid of Kemet. In fact, it resembles more the pyramids in Nubia. As many of you would know, there are much more pyramids in Nubia, which is Sudan, than you have in Kemet. Listening to the news just the other day, they were referring to South Sudan as the newest African country, the youngest African country, South Sudan. And I'm saying to myself, now listen to that. The oldest African country is now the youngest African country because, as I said, South Sudan, the kingdom of Kush, the kingdom of Nyam, the kingdom of what you call it, the Taraseti, you know, and remember Queen Hatshepsut, people like Harkuf and these ones from Kemet would have gone up south to pay homage to their relatives and ancestors up south. You understand? And that's the ancient kingdom. The first kingdom is now the youngest kingdom. And anyway, maybe it's just a cycle. Everything has its meaning and symbolic reference. So now let's get into the kingdom of or the pyramid of Khufu. So you have the pyramid of Khufu, you have the pyramid of Khafre, his son, that's Khufu's son, and then you have the pyramid of Menkaure, which is Khufu's grandson. Of course, we did a tour just the other day, right on the YouTube site. If you're on the YouTube site, just you can go right in the Priest Isaac's YouTube channel, and you will see a short video we did when we actually went through the temple of one of King Khufu's granddaughter. Wonderful tour that was. So that's Mesra Ankh. So when you notice the three pyramids, they're built in a specific way. They're built to align with the movements of the heavens. And King Khufu's pyramid may appear to be somewhat smaller than the center pyramid. Many people see the center pyramid and think that's Khufu's pyramid. In fact, in many aspects, this specific pyramid here, what you really have is, because the second pyramid of Khafre is on a higher plateau, it gives the impression as if it is the pyramid, but as I said, or the Great Pyramid of Khufu. But many ones have used the Pyramid of Khafre and books, documentaries, and it has been highlighted as the Great Pyramid. But it's not necessarily, it's obviously great too. And I think many times it has been overlooked and a lot of concentration given to the Great Pyramid of Khufu when they're all mystic in their makeup. All right, basically, the Great Pyramid now. What is the vibration of it? Now, this is basically the greatest monument that has ever been made as far as its size, as far as its weight, as far as its makeup. Number one, we're looking at least 2.5 million blocks. So when we say 2.5 million blocks, we mean 2,500,000 blocks or more. And each block specifically is weighing at least 10 to 100 tons, or I should say between 10 and 100 tons. So the lightest block, see them here, is 10 tons. Look, the people sitting on the block as if, and this is just one of the 2.5 million blocks in it. This is just going up the side of one side of the massive pyramids. And each block is a seat for 3-4 people. And each block is weighing between 10 tons. If it's not 10 tons, it's 15 tons. If it's not 15, it's 20 tons. If it's not 20 tons, 30 or 40 tons. We're going up to 100 tons. And that is very, very important to keep in mind when you understand not just the size of this monument, the weight of the monument. We're talking about at least, it has estimated to be at least 5,273,834 pounds in weight as an estimation. I don't know which scale they put it on. But as I said, it's a guess. Now, but understanding and the fact that it brings down to 834, so it must be a very narrowed down and precise guesstimation. So keep that in mind. Even how the pyramid has been put together. On Earth, the longest line of longitude is said to be 31 degrees east. So in other words, the longest line as such that takes up landmass then, how can we explain this? So you have the lines of longitude, of course, but some lines of longitude go through less landmass than others. Okay, but there's a specific line of longitude that takes up more landmass than all the other lines of longitude, and it is 31 degrees east. The same thing can be said of 31 degrees north as it relates to the lines of latitude. And these set of lines between 31 degrees east and between 30 and 31 degrees north, lines of latitude and longitude, pardon me, the coordinations. This coordination that I just gave you is that of the pyramid. So interestingly, the pyramid sits then. The point is, this great monument here, this heavy stuff, the biggest thing ever built, really, as such. Man, even the Great Wall of China, man, come in and trying to see if the pyramid was made up of more material than the Great Wall of China. That'd be something else for real. But for real, you could take highways running across the United States of America and put everything together and it still fits in the pyramid. That is the truth. You know, the size of it really, when you understand it. So yet still you could see the level of mathematics and just understanding geology. You had to have obviously understood geology and geography and topography to place this big hunk of thing on basically the center of the earth, where the longest line, or the line of latitude, pardon me, that takes up the most landmass lays, where the line of longitude that takes up the most landmass on the planet lays. So how you know that? How you knew that? I'm talking to the builders of the pyramid. Which book you read that in? How you figure that out? You ain't got no computer to, you know what I mean? How you know that this spot here has the most landmass, latitude and longitude? That's a good guess. Yeah. And then to take again all of these stones and create not one but three magnificent monuments, each of which are aligning with the heavens and the movements of the stars, because it's obvious that how the pyramids are arrayed, especially from an aerial view, you could see the exact layout of the belt of Orion, Orion's belt. The three stars that stands out in the belt basically is the exact image of the stars that, or the pyramids on the ground that stands out in the Great Pyramids complex at Giza. So when we look at the Great Pyramid itself for a moment, when you understand, even again, the landmass, it's built on around 13.1 acres of land, because the city of Cairo is just a few, well, I was going to say a stone throw, but nothing is a stone throw here. Even in some of these photographs, it may look like if one pyramid is just behind the other pyramid, but it's a long way to go from one to the other. It's like mountains. Yeah, but listen to the heights, my brothers and sisters. The pyramid itself now, the outside of the pyramid was once limestone. But when the Arabs invaded, they took the limestone to develop the area of Cairo. Now, each side of the Great Pyramid, and we're speaking specifically of the Great Pyramid, each side of the Great Pyramid averages 755.5 feet in length, each side. The pyramid has 4 sides. And the difference, this is so important, between the longest side and the shortest side is 7.9 inches. Now, within the pyramid, you could find the whole science of pi, pi being 3.14159. You find the science of phi, and we will show you that as we continue to go through. We will get back to that, but just to highlight this. So here we have the science of the Great Pyramid and how it's connected to the stars up in the heavens. Number one, at the building of the pyramid, you had the alignment of the king's chamber with the Orion's belt. You had the alignment of the queen's chamber with the Sirius star. You also had the king's chamber aligned with Thuban, which was the pole star at the time in the constellation known as Draco. And you also had the queen's chamber aligned with the Little Dipper, which is basically at the pole of the heavens, the northern heavens as we know it today. Also, the alignment here. This is the pyramid in Teotihuacan. This is in South America here. That's the pronunciation. Let me get my pronunciation right. Teotihuacan. Please forgive me. But anyway, this massive pyramid now, many people argue that brick for brick, this is larger than the Great Pyramid. That is debatable as well. As you can see, the structure is basically similar to that of a step pyramid. But anyway, the complex here in Mexico is seen very similar to the complex here in Kemet. Look at it here. So you see the Kemetic pyramids. You see them here in Mexico, in Teotihuacan. And you also see the Kemetic alignment with the Orion constellation. Watch it all good, which obviously means the Orion constellation with the alignment of the pyramids of Kemet also has an alignment with the pyramids in Mexico in Teotihuacan. And then, of course, there's an alignment in China with what is known as the Xi'an pyramids. So you have the Xi'an pyramids, you have the Mexico pyramids, you have the Egyptian pyramids, and then you have the constellation of Orion. And all of these were built in a similar pattern at different parts of the planet. Also, what is highlighted is that even when you look, this came out specifically a few years ago, and showing the circuit board or the motherboard of a specific computer as such, and it really gave a perfect rendition of how specifically the Mexico pyramid structure at Teotihuacan, how it is set up, looks exactly like the circuit board, the motherboard. All of these little aspects, you know, are right there in Mexico. These little temples and these little shafts and you know, that were built is similar to that of the motherboard. This is extremely, extremely, extremely serious. All right, there you see it there as well. So the point is that we are dealing with an ancient science that has been replicated even today in modern science to keep modern science moving. This is why we can see even in certain temples, at Abydos, we already see certain equipment that we use up to this day, from the chopper, the helicopter, the tomahawk, the hovercraft. We see this all 4,000 or 5,000 years ago in the temples in Kemet. The light bulb, the filament, already seen thousands of years ago. So when they say Alexander Bell and Benjamin Franklin and these one invented this and that, not even Nikola Tesla, with all due respect, the vibration is that this science that is used in this modern day time is something that is obviously borrowed from a time prior to it. So the pyramids now really are no joke, and the alignment is key. Again, the way that the pyramid structure is set up, you have the descending passage here. Then from the descending passage, there is another passageway that carries you upwards. This is known as the ascending passage. When you reach to a specific part of the ascending passage, you have a passageway that carries you to the Queen's chamber. And then outside of the Queen's chamber, there's another passageway referred to as the Grand Gallery. And going up the Grand Gallery now, it brings you to what? The King's chamber. Now, both chambers, being the King's chamber and what is known as the Queen's chamber, they both have shafts that are located to the north and to the south of each chamber, the walls on each chamber. Again, inside of the King's chamber, the northern wall is aligned specifically to the northern celestial pole. That doesn't change. Even up to today, it is Polaris, not Thuban, that is aligned with the King's chamber of the pyramid. But now, what has happened is that from the time that this pyramid specifically was built, at the time around 2600 BC, according to what we've been taught. And then, listen good, and then around 2141 BC, this is the time when Thuban is said to have perfectly aligned with the Great Pyramid. Now, interestingly, that date, listen to me, good family, that date, 2141 BC, is the only date found in this pyramid. The pyramid doesn't have dates inside of it. The pyramid is really void of glyphs, The pyramid is void of all the meduneta that we see in a lot of the different temples. The Great Pyramid of Giza only has one or two different inscriptions, and one of the inscriptions which is found inside of the descending passage is actually a date, which is the 21st of March, 2141 BCE. So that's very interesting. So now I'm showing you now that date was the date, which is obviously a spring equinox, that Thuban perfectly aligned with the pyramid. If you understand astroscience, you would know that the celestial northern pole is something that is stable. But the pole star would obviously change with the precession of the equinox, which is really every 26,000 years. Good. So at the building of the pyramid as well, this specific pyramid, the alignment of the Orion's belt was with the southern shaft here in the King's chamber, and the alignment with Sirius, which is considered to be the dog constellation. Some people say that Sirius represents Orion's wife, Isis. Debatable again from my perspective, but anyway, it aligns with what is known as the Queen's chamber. Remember, these names were given by the archaeologists, not saying that they do not represent that, but you got to keep in mind that it is archaeologists that name the King's chamber the King's chamber. It is the archaeologists that say that it's the tomb for Khufu. That's not necessarily so. And it is the archaeologists specifically that says Khufu that built this specific pyramid. All right, so that alignment is important. You see, and why this is key going into the realms that we're going now is because astronomy plays a very important part with the pyramids, obviously, the understanding of the science of the pyramids, and even the building of the pyramid, not just astronomy. Everything comes into perspective here. Now, where we're going with this, and even let me take the moment to highlight our international homeschool cosmic classes, where, to be honest, all of what we're talking about here and much, much more is expressed to our young children in our international homeschool classes. These are produced by the Priest Isaac's Institute of Holistic Knowledge. And of course, as I said, we offer astronomy and African history and heritage. It's really designed for children of all ages, from K and upwards, even for you bigger ones. It is designed because really the information itself, that we bring to the young minds is really of, university level. But we just take it and package it in baby food type of, a way, so that even you, the big ones, could full joy. But I definitely, as your friend, would recommend that you take this package here, enroll your young ones in the international homeschool class. If you want them to have a good understanding of the cosmics and the movement of the heavens, and if you really want them to grow and evolve in their appreciation for African history and heritage, I promise you, you always hear me, if you want to say, put my neck on the line for this one here, I promise you, you will definitely see that encouragement in them. As I said, our classes are sent out every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and they appear in video form, and you get it in your inbox via your email. As I said, astronomy and African heritage. So over time, you're going to get over 160 classes for sure. I've had professionals that deal with this go through my classes, and they've rated it to the tops. And I'm telling you, the only thing they see is they say, man, please, that's too much information you're giving these people. Remember, it's a nice little bite-sized editions, but it goes for a while, comes every day, and but I'm telling you, it's something that the young ones will definitely full joy, something that they can read, repeat, and go back over and over again. Professionals have told me that, and that's a lot you're giving, So, and I'm telling you, even our scholars surprise their parents, so you should definitely look into it. If you just email me, you don't know the link, priestisaac27@gmail.com, priestisaac27@gmail.com. You'll definitely, we can email you straight, shoot you straight a copy of this brochure. Definitely electronic brochure. You get it in your email. You can go through it properly. There's a link that actually takes you to a crowdcast event where you get a better understanding of what we have to offer. So email me, and I definitely encourage you to not just enroll your child. I mean, if you have 5 children, that's you enroll all of them, but it's the same, one payment, because it's one household, isn't it? And at the same time, you should be enrolling yourself. All right, precise27@gmail.com. Okay, now where this is coming in is because we're blending astronomy now with the ancient African heritage, because the African heritage, the pyramids and everything, but the stars now, how does the stars connect? So of course, we're speaking of the ancient god Asa. We're speaking of Osiris, as he is referred to as. Now, Osiris represents the God in flesh as such. And the Osiris character is the Orion of the heavens. This is what we have seen in ancient Kemet. Orion is not Orion as such. Orion is referred to as Sahu. Now, in our book, which is The Heavens Declare the Glory, some of you would have had a copy or have a copy of the book. Here it is, The Heavens Declare the Glory, Rastafari and the Cosmos. Basically, within this book, we go into the whole aspect of how the heavens is connected to the concept of Rastafari. Now, this is not necessarily the pyramids in Rastafari, but as you have seen, the pyramids obviously is connected to the heavens, and the heavens is definitely connected to Rastafari, and Rastafari is directly connected to the pyramids. So in this book, for those who may not have a copy, we give a good breakdown of exactly how, you could see the different ages and the understanding of the equinoxes. Very important. We also break down the whole aspect of the solar symbol in religion and theology and all of these different things and so forth. But what I want to highlight here is when we speak in the book concerning Asa to Sahu. This chapter is called Asa to Sahu, which really is Osiris to Orion. And we specify Sahu because the ancient Egyptians referred to the constellation that we call Orion as Sahu. Now, Orion is a different character than Sahu, because Orion is a Greek character. Orion's story different. Orion is a hunter, a savage, some barbarian, kill and eat the animal alive and them kind of things. That is, Orion the great hunter. No offense to anybody named Orion. We understand what we mean when we highlight Orion. But then that's the difference with names. Some of us like to say, oh, names don't matter. It is Jesus or just, the name is just the English version of the name and all of that. Some of these English versions of the names have some terrible stories behind them, which obviously the energy of the name go following. So the constellation is really Sahu. And Asa, which they call Osiris, became Sahu. All right. So within this now, the myth of Osiris and Isis and Set. Let me just run through this quickly. There's some variations on the Osiris myth, but generally, the story begins with Osiris as the king of the ancient Egyptians, either through providing his wife and sister Isis with the power to rule in his place when he was away spreading civilization through the other, spreading civilization through the other's pure envy. Osiris angered his brother Set. Set resented Osiris's success and is said to have conspired to kill his brother after Set's wife, Nephthys, pretended to be Isis and seduced Osiris. The god Anubis was the result of their union. Set either drowned or killed Osiris. The story is often said to include a beautiful chest tailor-made to Osiris's size. Set ordered the creation of the chest and then invited his brother to a banquet. During the feast, he offered the remarkable chest to anyone who could fit inside. Everyone tried it, but only Osiris fit inside. The moment Osiris lay down in the chest, Set nailed the lid closed. Then he sealed the chest with molten lead and threw it along with his brother into the Nile. The chest, which some say inspired the idea for the Egyptian sarcophagi, was carried out to sea and then came to rest in a tamarisk tree growing near Byblos in Phoenicia. The tree grew around the god in the coffin, and he remained there until he died. The local king later decided he liked the same tree, and with no knowledge of Osiris's body inside, had it turned into a column for his palace. But Set encountered Osiris's body while he was out hunting one day. To prevent his brother from gaining the burial he deserved, the enraged Set cut Osiris's body up into various pieces with different numbers according to the text. 14, half of a lunar month. 16, the ideal height for a rise in the water level in cubits. Isis discovered what had been done and gathered all the pieces of Osiris's body that she could. The only part that she could not find was his penis, which had been eaten by an rhenicus fish, I think that's a catfish, making it forbidden food in ancient Egypt, which, with the help of Nephthys and Anubis, Isis patched up Osiris's body the best she could and prepared it for a proper burial. That's when they created the first mummy, and Anubis became associated with embalmers. When the other gods, or at least Ra, saw this, they resurrected Osiris. And the reference for that is in the back of the book. Let me just give you, for those who may be checking for their sources, what is right behind there. But anyway, as we look for that there, the source, just so you know exactly where that is coming from. That is not my writing specifically. That was something that I cited just to give more information there as well. That one specifically was from the Ancient History Encyclopedia, speaking of Osiris. All right, so basically, the Orion constellation represents Osiris. That's really what that was saying. Give thanks for, tigering with me, bearing with me, as they say, as I read that. But I just had to read it from another source, at least so you can understand that it's not something that we're putting together here. The story really is that the king would really, after he would have transcended, he would have moved on to the celestial world and become the Orion constellation. That is the basic theme, So the Osiris now represents the king on earth. Just like at a specific time, they said that Horus would represent the king on earth. So there's a time when Osiris, or Asa, represents the king on earth. And the Osiris story, as you just heard, when Osiris would have been killed and cut up into 16 pieces, he would have been put back together. And Osiris did what? Osiris, or Asa, his more correct name, would have resurrected and have gone up to where? The heavens, and become who? Orion, the constellation. Orion is very symbolic because Orion sits on the celestial equator. Half of Orion is to the north, half of Orion is to the south. Perfect. That means, unlike any other constellation, Orion is the lord of the skies. Unlike any constellation, half of Orion, dominates the southern celestial hemisphere, and the other half of Orion dominates the northern celestial hemisphere. Orion's sword is dipped in the river Nile. This is the Milky Way running through Orion's sword. So his sword is dipped in the river Nile, and he has a shield in front of him. It's not a dead animal carcass like the Greek rendition. And this is why now the name Orion is important, because Orion is the one with the dead animal carcass. Sahu is the one with the shield and the sword. Sahu is the one that has his sword dipped in the river Nile. Orion has a club. Sahu has a sword. You understand? That's very, very important. So when we speak of Orion, we're really speaking of Sahu, which is the resurrection of Asa, which they call Osiris. And this is why even the Great Pyramid now itself is seen aligned with the Great who? The Great Sahu. The Great Pyramid is aligned with the three pyramids, or I should say, the three stars of Orion's belt. That is to show that they are one. You understand? So when you actually are in the king's chamber, this is the chamber now that they say that the king would have been put in the sarcophagus. And the sarcophagus, specifically, the room is the king's chamber, and the passageway going towards the south side of the wall aligns with the Orion's belt, or the belt of Sahu, which is the constellation that represents Osiris. So all of that you see in the king's chamber basically is representing the elevation of the king which supposedly, now listen to me, there's no bodies that were found in these pyramids here. But according to archaeologists, we are to believe that the coffers or the sarcophagus, that word always twists me up there, the sarcophagus would have been a chest for the king. All right. So the idea is that the king is in his king's chamber after he passed on. And because it's built to align with Orion or Sahu, the king here represents who? The Osiris that has passed on. And the Osiris that has passed on, according to the story, would eventually become one with the Orion or the Sahu constellation. Now, that is very high. And in fact, I believe that the pyramids were built for that. Doesn't necessarily mean that they were built as tombs, but they were built in that replica to continue express in a more material expression what we have been writing about on the glyphs for years. Now we have performed it by using a monument that is outstanding. Now, do not take the pyramid for granted. Now, even with the Osiris story, before we get to the depths of the pyramid, let us return quickly to the Osiris story again. So in our book, The Heavens Declare the Glory, what we do, we take time to show the connection between Haile Selassie I and Asa, also known as Osiris, because this is another level. I'm sure many of you have seen the Master of Ceremonies. You see, this thing is layered. Now, the Osiris concept or Asa, many people would argue that Osiris or Asa is really, it's not a real human being. Because the story speaks of Asa as a king sitting and ruling. But Asa or Osiris is not a real human being. He's a principle, the forces of nature and all of that good stuff. And of course, I definitely agree with that. But you see how I look at things. I believe these principles, these forces of nature that we talk about, will literally manifest in human beings. That's why they're principles. Principles don't manifest in the wind, even though the wind have its own principle as such, But when we're talking about Ma'at, yes, Ma'at is nature. But we as the intelligent mammals, as we call, we're the intelligent animals. That's how science describes us, the intelligent animals. I guess the beaver ain't too intelligent. Go and build something like how he built that, man. That ain't no dam. What we build is a dam. He's building a project of of water. What do you call it? Oh man, the word ain't coming to me. But anyway, the beaver is an intelligent animal. The peacock is an intelligent animal. I mean, I think we are disrespecting the animals when we talk about human beings are the intelligent animals. Human beings, the people that are dropping bombs on other human beings. Human beings denying other human beings of food. Human beings denying human beings of beings. And we are the intelligent animals. But anyway, so we as the intelligent animals, I'm talking about human beings, the science of Osiris, the science of Heru, the principles of Ma'at, the principles of Hathor, the principles of Shango, the principles of the Orisha, the principle of Ogun. I see that the reason why they're seen as humans is because they are expected to reside in human beings. The principles of Jesus Christ. Christ and Moses and Joshua and all these people in the Bible, they're all the same people. It's like the ancient Anansi story. They're all the same people. Anansi represents everyone. That's why Christ says he's in everyone. That's why the ark is in every church. It's a deep, deep thing. So within all of us, there is the ark. But the ark is still the ark within itself. So Asana, Osiris on the wall may not have existed. But the king was seen as Osiris. The king was the manifestation of Heru. So Heru became a human being. And even if the king wasn't really that, it was a culture that they kept up. But still, the principle of Heru would have manifested in someone, specifically as it relates to the cycle of the cosmic. You know, every 2,160 years, they have a new age. That's why there's a Melchizedek in every age. So Melchizedek may not be one person. You may say Melchizedek is a principle. I agree. But the principle of Melchizedek come every age in somebody fresh. And then now listen to me good. Then Heru is a principle too. But the principle of Heru still come every year or every age in somebody fresh. The principle of Hathor come in a fresh woman every cycle. The principle of Aset, the principle of Oshun, the principle of the Messiah, the Christ. So these principles that are not people, I agree, still manifest in people in their cosmic time. So Osiris does come as a human being. They have a time when Osiris walked the earth, and I'm sure he have done it several times as a person that's born out of a woman womb and have a daddy too. No matter how much the allegory says they don't have mother nor father, it's symbolic of something else. But they surely have a DNA and a granny and an uncle, without a doubt, even if they're Melchizedek. Because people say Christ is Melchizedek, but Melchizedek didn't have a mother nor a father. They say Christ didn't have a father, but he surely had a mother. So half Melchizedek or what? Because all of that is symbolism. It's esoteric. It's allegory for something deeper. So yes, Asa is a human being. All them principles manifest in human being. If they don't manifest in human being, they're just spookism. Oh, Osiris didn't exist. Yeah, I agree. The green man didn't exist there. But that Osiris principle came as Haile Selassie the first. You can't run from that. That's why the Osiris story is the same story of Haile Selassie the first. They say Osiris was coronated. And remember, at his coronation, there were 72 individuals that came to the coronation of Osiris. It's 72 nations that were represented at the coronation of Haile Selassie the first. You understand? Even the whole aspect of them cutting Osiris into 16 pieces represents the Article 16 that was used, that was discarded by the League of Nations. You know, the League of Nations are the same 72, you know, that came at the banquet. The European nations, of which Haile Selassie I was amongst when he put the League of Nations, put Ethiopia into the League of Nations since 1922-23, you know, strategically. So this is why when he approached the League of Nations and he spoke to them in Geneva in 1936, clearly he could highlight even the situation that was taking place in Ethiopia, you know, because as a member of the League of Nations, he had the right to address them, you know, breaking protocol, the only head of state to address the League of Nations, the only head of state to address the United Nations. So he's the only head of state to address both bodies. All of this is covered in the Master of Ceremonies for sure. So when he addressed the League of Nations, now remember after that, the League of Nations came to nothing, to rubble. World War II began, they started to fight one another. And then after 5 years, exactly after 5 years, Haile Selassie regained the throne. All of that is the Osiris story. Remember, Osiris was resurrected in exactly 5 years, from the 5th of May, 1936 to the 5th of May, 1941. That's Ethiopian history. The 5th of May is Ethiopian Liberation Day. Exactly 5 years to the day, the 5th day, the 5th month, 5 years apart. It's symbolic of the 5 bleeding wounds. So the allegory of that has come alive in the history of Emperor Haile Selassie I. This is not anything we can run from. And that's what the Osiris story says. When Osiris was chopped up into them 16 pieces, you know, Article 16, Article 16, when Osiris was chopped up into those 16 pieces is exactly 5 years he took before he was resurrected. And when he was resurrected, that is when he became the constellation of Orion. Osiris or Asar did not become the constellation of Sahu, also called Orion, until he resurrected. That is very, very, very important. And this is the same thing with Haile Selassie I, because remember, you know, it's after he was resurrected, he literally spoke to the League of Nations and the United Nations. Yes, when the war was taking place, he addressed the League of Nations. This is 1936, the 30th of June. He's the only head of state to address the League of Nations. After that, that's the fulfillment of Zephaniah chapter 3. The Lord shall gather all nations. He shall speak to them in a pure language from beyond the rivers of Ethiopia. That's what the book says. No? That the Lord shall speak to them in a pure language. And where's the language coming from? From beyond the rivers of Ethiopia. The book of Zephaniah chapter 3, check it for yourself. And remember, he did speak to them in a pure language in 1936. He spoke to them in Amharic, and that was not the protocol. He was supposed to speak in a European language, in a European tongue, but the emperor spoke to them in Amharic, you understand, and broke down the place. The place mashed up World War II, Hitler, boom, 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 and all of that. And again, as I said, even before World War II was done, the emperor already took back the throne. So when Europe was destroyed, they formed the United Nations in 1945, of which the emperor was also a key part of that, of drafting the first Declaration of Human Rights and all of that in 1945 when they started the United Nations. So when the emperor addressed the United Nations in 1963 now, interestingly, what that is, and look at it, he addressed the United Nations or League of Nations in 1936, 36 and 63, just flip the digits around. In 1963 now, he addressed the United Nations. League of Nations, 36, United Nations, 63. And remember, the United Nations is the rebirth of the League of Nations, because the League of Nations mash up. How it mash up? Because Haile Selassie addressed the League of Nations and destroyed it. You know what I mean? With his words. Reporters said that. The reporter that interviewed the king in the same 1963, Miss Frederick from NBC News, she told the king that your words, you gave a prophetic judgment on the League of Nations in 1936. So it was a prophetic judgment. He told them that the match, the spark that is, in Ethiopia shall burn throughout Europe. This is just reality. So Haile Selassie represents that angel in the Bible with 1 foot in water and 1 foot in land, because he's the only head of state that have addressed both League of Nations and United Nations. Keep in mind that these are the bodies that run the world. So it's symbolic. When you hear Rastaman say Haile Selassie is Earth's rightful ruler, this is the symbol to show you that undeniable. Now, what I'm saying here is that Osiris, all of Osiris pieces came back together except the penis. And then he resurrected without the penis because it's symbolic. So the obelisk that you see in Ethiopia, the obelisk that you see in Egypt is the symbol of Osiris's penis. This is Osiris's penis here, the obelisk. So this is why in Ethiopia, in Egypt, in Kemet, you see the obelisk. Now, right here in Antigua, in Greencastle Hill, we have the phallic stone. It's not no obelisk like this. It's a phallic stone that aligns with the female reproductive system every equinox right here in Antigua. I hope you're joining us this year for the summer solstice virtual tour, of which I'll be telling you a bit more about before we leave here. But anyway, so the obelisk, keep in mind, anytime you see an obelisk, when you see the Washington Monument, when you see Cleopatra's Needle, and all of these different things, they are the symbol of the erected penis, the symbol of power, and they represent Osiris's penis. Everybody know that, the penis of Asar. Even Ethiopians, they know this. In Kemet, they know this. Now, I'm telling you that Haile Selassie, this here is a replica of the Ethiopian obelisk. This was a gift that Haile Selassie brought to the United Nations when he spoke to the United Nations in 1963. I want you to keep this in mind. This is Osiris's penis. What is Osiris's penis doing all around the world? Osiris is a character that doesn't really exist. Osiris or Asar is the Kemetic god. And Osiris or Asa was cut into 16 pieces after his coronation. 72 people came to his coronation and they cut him into 16 pieces afterwards. And they threw him in the river. Just a story and a Nancy story. And then after this, his wife came and took his pieces and put them together, but they couldn't find his penis. And after they put him together, he resurrected in exactly 5 years, exactly to the day. And then he became the constellation of Orion, also known as Sahu. Astronomically, what's important about Sahu is that half of him is to the north and half of him is to the south. So that means now, when you understand that half to the north, half to the south, that means he's the ruler of the heavens. There's no other constellation like that. The only one similar to that is the serpent holder, when half is to the north and half is to the south. And this is highlighted by the belt because the equator of the heavens runs right through this belt. This is important. And this is why the ancient Kemetic gods would have aligned themselves, not just with Asa, Osiris, on earth, the principle, but with the god in the sky, the celestial heavens, Sahu, also known as Orion. Very important. The Emperor Haile Selassie I, know this. You think it's me, Priest Isaac, make it up? Because people like to say that that is Priest Isaac's story. He make up that. Sometimes I'm glad to hear that, because in time to come, in time to come, it's going to be clear. And when the white professor start to say that, I know enough people going to be saying, oh yeah, man, Rasta preaching that long time. No, play them. Because trust me, I'm going to defend myself. My point is that before the emperor spoke at the League of Nations, remember the thing with Osiris and Orion, Asa and Sahu, is that Osiris is not always Orion. Osiris represents Christ. But to become Orion, he have to be crucified and have to come back alive in 5 years and then resurrect and becomes the ruler of both sides. Haile Selassie, again, is the only head of state to speak to the League of Nations and the United Nations. Nobody else ever do it. It can't change. No matter how much heads of state speak of the United Nations today, it's clear that only one has spoken to two. When did this become history? This was in November 1963, when the emperor went to New York. But just before he spoke, the same day, while he came to the UN, and just before he spoke, because remember when he's going to speak, this is going to seal history. This man that is speaking, Haile Selassie, he's the emperor of Ethiopia. He spoke at the League of Nations in 1936. At that time, heads of states never spoke of at the League of Nations, only envoys and representatives. He broke protocol. And now he's here today at the new United Nations, and he's going to speak. And when he speaks, this means he will be the only head of state, and maybe the only person to, but for sure, the only head of state that has ever spoken to these two governing bodies. And that represents Osiris, the resurrection of Osiris. And interestingly, the symbol of that is the phallic. And Haile Selassie, before he went to speak, made sure he gave them the phallic of Osiris. And then he went and took the rostrum and began his second speech. That is to prove that he for sure have a clear understanding of who he is. Because the Kemetic Ethiopian kings always align themselves with Osiris and they always align themselves with Orion. The book is The Heavens Declare the Glory. You should get a copy. It is written by myself. Rastafari and the Cosmos. Definitely a collector's item in times to come. If you don't want to get it from me, you could get it from Amazon. Just go on Amazon. The Heavens Declare the Glory. Priest Isaac. And we have other books there. We have Anu, Ancient and Modern, a must read. And of course, the Biblical Land of Israel. You should check it out. All right, let's continue now. Back to the pyramids. We ain't done. I think we just began. Now let us understand a little more. And this is why we say it's good to get the young ones in the astronomical class plus the African class. Now, let us understand the pyramid itself and its makeup. Listen good, family. As I said, within the pyramid, you have pi and epsilon. I just explained that the pyramid rests on 13.1 acres of land. Each side of the pyramid, 755.5 feet in length, at least an average. And the longest and the shortest shaft, there's a difference of 7.9 inches. So within the pyramid, the pyramid, you have pi and epsilon, you have phi. These key numbers, 3.14159, that's pi, and phi is 1.618, and we will explain the solar year. The solar year, which is 365.24 days, not 365 and a quarter, or 365.25. 365.24. This is very important. Why? Listen to me. The vertical height of the pyramid times 10 to the 9th power is the exact distance of the sun from the earth. Let me repeat. The vertical height of the pyramid times 10 to the 9th power is the distance from the sun to the earth, 93 million miles. That is decoded or coded, I should say, in the pyramid. The length of a base side, of the pyramid, and this would be 9,131 inches. But anyway, the length of a base side of the pyramid times 25 inches, which now is a cubit. This is the mystic. When you hear about the cubic, there's a specific cubit, 25 inch, the cubic inch, basically. Now, the cubic inch, pardon me, is different than the regular inch. So when you utilize the cubic inch of the ancient Kemetic ones, specifically with the pyramid, this is where so many things are expressed. So again, the length of the base side, 9131 times 25 inch, which is the cubic inch specifically as well, would give you 65.24. So that's 365.24, which is the exact days in a solar year. The solar year is not 365. That can take you off. That's why you have a leap year and all of that. The solar year is not 365.25. The solar year is 365.24. So now the length of the king's chamber now, with the pyramid itself, the king's chamber, the length of the king's chamber, plus half the length of the antechamber, because there's an antechamber before you go into the king's chamber. So it's basically 3 chambers there after the ascending passage. The queen's chamber, the king's chamber, and a little chamber called the antechamber. Can't overlook that. So now, according to the mathematics we have here, the length of the king chamber plus half the length of the antechamber gives you the same 365.24. Keeping in mind, 0.24 is very, very important here. At the same time now, you have a circle with the length of the antechamber. Listen good. A circle with the length of the antechamber which is 116.25 inches, for its diameter. So again, a circle with the length of the antechamber for its diameter will give you a circumference within the circle of 365.24. Interesting. Now, when we understand the science even of the equinox and the movements of the heavens and many different things, all of that comes into play. Remember, the solar year is very important because we're dealing with solar science. That's why the sun is considered as the symbol of God. Ra has been seen as the sun. That's where you get the term even the son of God. So anything with the sun, the alignment of the sun and the solar and the solstice, the sun is very key. So now, twice the length of the king's chamber, which would be 2 times 412.12 inches, when measured along the grand gallery floor, contains a vertical rise again of 365.24 inches. All of this is in the pyramid, you know? And you got to keep in mind that the pyramid is like the biggest monument around. You know what I mean? Remember, you know, we're talking about 2.5 million blocks. This is what we're talking about, 2.5 million blocks. Each block is between 10 to 20 tons. You understand? Countless of blocks really packed together on the center of the earth, where latitude and longitude basically meet as it relates to the landmass, the most landmass of latitude, the most landmass of longitude. And these engineers knew the science that they could put all of these bricks here and pack them up perfectly and create a monument that aligns with, number one, the 3 stars of the Lord of the sky. They align with the 3 stars of the ancient Sahu. That means the pyramids were built to align with the celestial equator, because them stars are on the celestial equator. That is why Orion or Sahu is the Lord of the sky. That's why half is on the north and half is on the south, because the belt, or I should say the celestial equator of the heavens runs through the belt of Sahu, the belt of Orion, and the pyramids at Giza perfectly resemble that. All right, but again, is the size of the monument and monuments, the size, the heftiness, yet still with all these bricks, you know, heavy bricks. You can still build a little shaft, you know. You can make the square with your 2 hands, you know, you could make a square with your hands. That's the size of these shafts here. And these shafts were built with all this heavy big bricks and load, was still built to perfectly not just align with Thuban 3,000 years BC, but to align with the celestial North Pole. That is very, 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 very important. That the king's chamber is built to align with the celestial North Pole. Why? Because stars move. Stars change. That's why the pole star changes, but the pole doesn't change. The pole is fixed, but the stars are not fixed. The pole is an apparent thing, you know. Because of where we are on the planet, we have an apparent pole. It's the earth that is spinning, and the wobble and the precession of the equinoxes, as it's called, has to do with the earth's precession and the wobble and everything, and the sun moving 1 degree every 72 years. All of that has to be taken into consideration. So obviously the builders of the pyramids have to have known simple things like that. And again, not just the knowledge of geometry and mathematics, but the engineering skill to use all them bricks, heavy bricks. Nothing else heavy like this, and nothing crumbling, nothing break up. It is so long, and up to now, the shaft still pointing to the center of the sky. That's some deep stuff. Deep. Again, keep in mind the weight, and yet still, you can tell me that within all of that heavy stuff, 5 million pounds, we still can be talking about the vertical height of the pyramid times 10 to the ninth power gives you the exact distance of the earth to the sun. What kind of scientists put this together? Just to know the distance from the earth to the sun alone is a big, big thing. Plus, you can build this big, big, big monument, this massive monument, so many stones, the heaviest thing, this point in the earth, have it aligned with all that stars, all those stars, and still I can come with a ruler and say the vertical height of the pyramid times 10 to the 9 powers, bring the calculator, cling, ling, 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 93 million miles. Great Scots, Batman. Holy smokes. I mean, the Riddler and the Joker couldn't put this together. That's my point. The length of a bayside times 25 inches give you 365.24, not 0.25, 0.24. The length of the king's chamber plus half the length of the antechamber, 365.24. A circle with the length of the antechamber for its diameter will give you a circumference of 365.24. This is some serious stuff. Then we're talking about twice the length of the king's chamber, which is 2 times 412.21, or 12, pardon me, inches measured along the grand gallery floor contains a vertical rise. I mean, how you come by that? Of 365.24. This big, heavy, heavy stuff. Grand gallery, inside we gone, and we still seeing the mathematics played out. Wow, who built this? Khufu is a genius. The total inch value of the base, we're soon done, eh? We're soon done. The total inch value of the base perimeter equals the number of days in a century. Now hear this. This is one of the key points. The total inch value at the 35th level perimeter equals 80, exactly 80 solar years. Now, there's so much more. Let's move on because we will stay here. In fact, let me say this too. In the book of Isaiah, chapter 19, verse 19, there's a scripture that says, and in that day, the Lord, shall, I actually can't even remember the citation, but listen, live and direct, you got to pull the Bible right on the computer right now. So look at here, King James Version, Isaiah 19. Watch it here. We just going straight for it. Bam. The burden of Egypt. All right. Listen to this, family. In that day, let me see if that's sharing with the family there. Okay, good. In that day, let me pick that verse spin around here, brother. In that day, Isaiah chapter 19, verse 19, you with us? Isaiah 19, verse 19. How many of you have a copy of The Night of the Black Tiger? The Night of the Black Tiger is our previously done our more recent DVD documentary. It goes into the divinity of Marcus Messiah God. I mean, it's a must-have for everyone. The Night of the Black Tiger. You understand? If you don't have a copy of The Night of the Black Tiger, just email me and say, priest, I would like a copy of The Night of the Black Tiger. I will give you a copy of The Night of the Black Tiger. You need to watch that, man. And it's just an hour and 15 minutes. It's not a lecture. It's a documentary, well put together documentary, music and lights and sounds. Your children would love it. And it highlights, there's a chapter within it. Not a book, it's a video. What we call it chapter. There's a chapter in it called 1919. The Marcus Garvey, Black Star Line in 1919, etc. But anyway, This is Isaiah 19:19. So email me, precise27@gmail.com. I will send you the Night of the Black Tiger. No cost, nothing. You have to pay for it. 1919. All right. So what we say here? Isaiah 19:19. In that day shall there be an altar to the Lord in the midst of the land of Egypt, and a pillar at the border thereof to the Lord. And it shall be for a sign, for witness unto the Lord of hosts in the land of Egypt, for they shall cry unto the Lord because of their oppressed, and he shall send them a savior, a great one, and he shall deliver them. Okay, let's see how quick we can go through this. This here, Isaiah chapter 19, verse 19 and 20. What stands out here? Just quickly, Egypt. And in Egypt, there's an altar and a pillar. Now, the altar and the pillar is the same thing. People may say, well, no, it can't be. Why? Because what the altar is in the midst and the pillar is on the border. That's to prove that is the same thing. Do you know that the pyramid of Giza, as I said earlier, there was a unification of the land of Egypt. You remember what date that was? 3200 BCE. Some say 3100 BCE. That was under King Menes, Nama or Menes. Now, King Menes united Upper and Lower Egypt. So there's an Upper Egypt that's in the south, and there's a Lower Egypt that's in the north. So that means there's a line that runs through Upper and Lower Egypt. Now you follow me? I don't think we have to go to the map to say this. Good. So there's a line. So just like one state divided by the other state, you have a line between North and South Korea, and you have a line between East and West Germany, you have a line between Mexico and wherever, Texas or whatever. So there's a line, like a wall then, yeah, there's a line between Upper and Lower Egypt. The pyramid is built on that line. What are they doing with that? The pyramid is built on the line that separates Upper and Lower Egypt. And hear this now. This scripture say that there's an altar in the midst of Egypt. No, the pyramid is in the midst of Egypt, and the pyramid is an altar. I'm sure you agree. And it's in the midst of Egypt, okay, in the middle. And a pillar on the border. It's on the border too. In fact, it's on both borders. It's on the border of Upper and Lower Egypt. So this pillar that Isaiah chapter 19, in the midst of the land of Egypt, or the altar in the midst and the pillar on the border, is the Great Pyramid. Hear what it says. It shall be a witness unto the Lord of hosts in the land of Egypt. You see that? It shall be a witness, and he shall send them a savior. Now listen to this. The numerical value of this scripture here in Hebrew is 5,449. I will repeat, the numerical value, the value of it when you add up the numbers and letters, the numerical value of this scripture, Isaiah chapter 19, verse 19, in Hebrew, not in English, not in Greek, in Hebrew is 5,449. That's the height of the pyramid in cubic inches, 5,449 inches. So the height of the pyramid, 5,449 inches. That's the height of the pyramid. And there's a scripture that debatable, it's debatable to some, it's an arguable point, that it is talking about the pyramid. I think it is, because there's an altar in the midst of the land of Egypt. The pyramid is an altar, and it is in the midst. And there's a pillar on the body thereof. The pyramid is right, it is a pillar, and it's on the body thereof. Okay, interesting. Because in pillar, you see pi, no, pi, pillar, pi. The pyramid is pi, pyramid, not Pythagoras. And hear this now, and it's a witness, and it's a sign. Man, the pyramid stand out more than anything else. And what's outstanding now, this is on the next level now, not for kindergarten. The heights is that the numerical value of the scripture that talk about the pyramid has the same number as it relates to the height of the pyramid. Remember, this is the same pyramid, you know, that when you add this and add that, you get the days of the year, you get the distance from the earth to the sun, you get the cycle of the moon, you get all kind of things in the pyramid. You know. What I just dropped to you was just a drop in the ocean. You know, the pyramid is geology, astronomy, geography, as you can see, topography, geometry, algebra, calculus, physics, chemistry. The pyramid is like a dynamo, electricity. The pyramid is all of these things. I don't think there's anything that has been built. No ark and no covenant can compare. The pyramid itself is an ark. And that is why the lecture we're doing on Wednesday night, remember this lecture is not on YouTube now. This lecture is going to be specifically on Crowdcast. So for sure you'd have to contact us for your key to get to that lecture. If you can't make the payments using the Cash App, remember there are other means and ways that we can pay the payment. But again, when you make the payment using the Cash App, please, you have to contact us and let us know you just made that payment so we know who is who, and you get your key to enter into the lecture. But I think this point is clear, that this scripture, Isaiah 19, verse 19, is not only speaking of the pyramid, but I think it's outstanding in the levels that the pyramid itself now, the height of the pyramid and the numerical value of that scripture. So what is important here as we continue, as I said, we're going to soon seal up here. The Great Pyramids, Khufu, Khafre, Menkaure. Now, the complex, all of them, they're actually complexes, you know. It's not just a pyramid. They have a whole pyramid complex. Some are a bit well preserved, more preserved than the other. Now, the best well preserved one, or best preserved one, is the complex of Khafre, and it's like made from limestone encased in granite, and that is the complex with, of course, the great Har-Emaket, also known as the Sphinx. Now, what is important here, again, we're dealing with the alignment of the movements. This is a next level of how the pyramid is built. From this complex, because everything is assumption, from the complex of Khafre, which is the complex of the Sphinx, from the gallery of the complex, pardon me, this is what you witness on the 21st day of June. So I'm showing you exactly from where. Not from here, not from here, not from here. There's a reason why this has been set at this angle, everything, and the Har-Emaket, which is the Sphinx, which is the lion body and the head of a man. Some say it's a woman, but specifically, you know, because if this is a woman's head, it says a lot about what this pyramid really represents. Because the pyramid really represents a father, son, and a next son, you know. And many people say that the Sphinx is Khafre, which all of that is, again, debatable. But anyway, let's stick to the point. The point is, though, that Har-Emaket, or the Sphinx as they call it, which is another word for monster, the Sphinx, when you look at it from the terrace here of the temple, the valley temple, you have what they call the funerary temple and the valley temple. So all of these are the ones closer to the Nile where the flooding will come. These are called the valley temples. So from the valley temple of Khafre, and you observe the Sphinx, which is the Har-Emaket, on the solstice, on the summer solstice, the 21st day of June, the sun will set perfectly between the two pyramids here, Khufu and Khafre, and behind the head of the Lion of Judah, or the Har-Emaket, which is the lion with the human head. Very interesting. Now you see this here? Obviously, this is another level of engineering, science, astronomy, archaeoastronomy that had to have been known during the time at the building of the pyramids. Look at all these different heights about this one pyramid, you know. So this is why now you hear us speak a lot about the alignments of the solstices and the equinoxes, because during the equinoxes, the sun would more set behind between Khafre and Menkaure, and at the spring or the winter, no, the spring equinox, pardon me, the sun will set between Khafre and Menkaure's pyramid, and the other solstice, which is the winter solstice, it would set just to the side of Menkari. But the spring, the summer solstice now, not the winter solstice. Let me get my solstices and equinox straight. I hope I'm not confusing you. But the summer solstice, let's just stick to the summer solstice. But the summer solstice shows the sun. It will come down here like this. And it sets right behind there. Good. And that actually even brings us to the reason why even you hear us speak about our summer solstice experience, and that is very important. Again, this is why we invite people not just to come to Antigua to witness what's happening here, but what really sprung this. I think most of you who have been with us for a while would know what really would have sprung this up is the fact that they're destroying this hill, Green Castle Hill. That's like the main thing. When you understand the value of the hill, although this lecture is not about this hill, but what we've been speaking of so far, it would give you more appreciation even for Green Castle Hill, because all the alignments that I was speaking of there, we have the same alignments here on Green Castle Hill. And it's a more constant alignment because it's a natural edifice as such. It's a natural monument. It's a hill filled with countless of these megaliths that just align with the movements of the heavens, So that is very key. That is why, this is why we highlight all this area behind here. It's just a mountain with megaliths. As you could see, these are not freestanding megaliths. These are boulders actually coming out of the earth. They're not what they call menhirs. For those who are archaeologists, you may want to refer to these as menhirs. No, these are not freestanding. They come straight out of the earth. So they were born. They're stones that were not placed by men. They were born to praise the heavens. So they've been there longer than the pyramid because they're geologically made. So the land mass has been there longer than the pyramids as such. No disrespect to the pyramids, but they were not built by human beings. All of these rocks, some of them are boulders that have fell, but the vast majority, once you see them standing, I can prove to you that they're coming from hundreds of feet below the earth as molten lava, which obviously took maybe hundreds of thousands of years to evolve to the state that they are. And there are countless of them, just as much stones that build the pyramid, that's as much stones you have on Green Castle Hill. I know I'm not exaggerating it. Yeah, I definitely know I'm not exaggerating, and definitely you could see all of that highlighted. Some of the thrones, there's several thrones that you see on Green Castle Hill. But this is why, again, we highlight, and just to even give a quick plug since we're here, the Summer Solstice Virtual Edition. This is a wonderful event that we do every year, but of course, through the restrictions of traveling the earth, COVID-19 and all of that, and jab and stab and dig up your nose to see if you have this and that, we've decided to humble on the inviting people to come. You still can come to Antigua, that's the truth. But as I said before, and I'm going to say it again, whoever vexes, up to them. I'm not going to encourage my loved ones to come here and then be, uncomfortable because of one thing or the other. And the protocols change daily. Right now, there's a new thing that you have to pay for a test when you come here. So many different things. So listen, we're keeping the experience virtual for a moment, and we find the virtual is very nice. So we still do our morning hike and we still do our afternoon hike, and you can stay right at home and watch us. You'll be with us when we go up to the hill Friday morning to see the sunrise. You'll be with us the Sunday when we watch the sunset. All of this is very important. Of course, this is going to be different this time around. We're still going to have the Nyabingi drummers. We're going to have our herbalists with us. We're going to have the griot Paddy Simon. He's going to be with us telling us the history of the area of Green Castle Hill. It's going to be such a wonderful event, such a wonderful package. We're going to be doing the cannabis tour and lecture. I know those who were with us for the spring equinox, looking forward to that. So you're going to see how the plants are growing. I'm talking about acres of ganja. Remember, this is Antigua. Remember, in the Rastafari community, there's total immunity as it relates to any persecution, as it relates to marijuana. So marijuana, ganja, cannabis, all the different strains, you'll be seeing it. We're going to have a live Rastafari Chalice talk. That is going to be beautiful. This is 3 days. This is not a one-day event. 3 days. All you have to do is contact us when you get your key. You'll be able to come in on the Thursday for the ganja tour. And remember, each event is like 2 hours long, you know. So it's up to you if you could take the whole 2 hours. And even if you're not there with us live, but live is the experience. I mean, you can come home and still punch in, and it will be right there on the website or whatever it is avenue that we provide for you. Then the Friday morning, you wake up with us, well, depending on where you are on the planet, as we hike up the Green Castle Hill amongst the megaliths, the sunrise and the lectures, beautiful, the yoga and everything, the drumming, the afternoon, the Sunday afternoon, a similar thing, but we're going to have the griot with us, the historian. So it's really 3 exciting days. Hopefully by the next winter solstice, hopefully you could fly in with us and have the actual experience and get your island tour and get the beach and get the food and visit the Nyabingi and all of that. But for now, we're doing it virtually. So I hope that you come on board. I mean, for the whole 3 days, it's not $100 a day. Somebody was asking me that. The whole full package is just $100 for the full package. And again, if you buy your ticket before Monday, the 7th of June, because we're talking about the summer solstice, which is the 21st of June. But if you buy your ticket before the 7th of June, early bird tickets, they call it, it's only $85. I mean, it's really a good deal. It's 3 days, eh? Keep in mind, it's 3 days, virtually, 2 hikes, lectures, drumming, chalice talk, marijuana tour, herbal lecture, a heap of seed. You'll definitely full joy. So you know what to do, just contact me. Priest-Isaac at 27 or priest-Isaac27 at gmail.com. And remember, you can make your payments using the Cash App at Atonra 2723, ATONRA 2723. And remember, when you make all these payments, no matter what it is, even if it's just a contribution you put there, please contact us and let us know exactly what's going on. All right. Now, what's standing out within the pyramid? There's another main point in sealing up that we have to mention as it relates to the pyramid here. And we're definitely sealing up here. This date that's in the pyramid. Now, follow me good. You will notice that there's several dates here. Now, all of these dates were added by mathematicians. They're not off dates, they're correct. But correct about what? Now, as I said, the only date that you find in the pyramid here is 2141 BC. And at that time, there was an alignment with the pole star Thuban, which is not the pole star anymore. Polaris is the pole star. Okay, and at that time, 21st day of March, Thuban was perfectly on the celestial pole, and that is why it could have perfectly aligned, and that's the date that was etched in. All right. Now, please follow me good, my family. What happens is that once discovered that when you take this date, now remember the date is there, and you use the Egyptian inch, going down, going out, going up the side. People go all over the pyramid using this inch. What appears is, it seems as if that depending on where you go, some key dates appear. So as I said, you could go back out, you could measure coming down the side, but you must start at 2141 BC. Are you following me? You must start at 2141 BC. So when you measure going all the way down in the pit, 1914 at the beginning of the pit stands out. 1914 is the beginning of World War I. When you go all the way up to the entrance of the Grand Gallery, 1914 stands out again. Again, as I said, the beginning of World War I. When you go all the way up to the beginning of what they call the Queen's Chamber, you have 33 AD. And some people make reference to 1435 I've seen 1432 as the date that maybe the Exodus would have taken place. Now I want you to watch this good. This is where you have the ascending passage, grand gallery, pit, king's chamber. Follow this, good family. Now there's a story here, obviously. You are going down to the pit. This is the tomb, you know. This is the end of it, under the ground. The pit is not even in the pyramid, the pit under the ground. So you going down into the pit. Now, this is very sensible to look at it from this way. Now, when you reach this intersection here, you could either keep going to the pit or you could start to ascend. The choice is yours. It's real, it's real. Watch it good. Now, obviously, if you keep going to the pit, and me tell you, it's a long way to the pit, like you have enough time to think about it and say, well, wait, I don't need to go. But anyway, if you go straight to the pit, you already see what's there for you in the pit. All right, see, the pit is called the descending passage. So now, the ascending passage takes you to the Queen's chamber, as it's called. But watch this. When you reach to the Queen's chamber area, you come to something known as the Grand Gallery, because when you go up this passage, it's very low. So if you're a tall person or even a regular height person, you have to bend down, you know, to go all the way here. Even to go down in the pit is very uncomfortable. You have to bend down to go down in the pit. Very uncomfortable. Going up from here is uncomfortable too. But interestingly, when you reach to the Queen's chamber, you can straighten your back, give thanks, and walk up the Grand Gallery. I don't care how tall you are. You ain't got no problem. You're not going to hit your head walking up to the Grand Gallery, which takes you to the King's Chamber. Okay, quickly. We already know the alignment. The Queen's Chamber aligned with the south, aligned with what? Sirius, and to the north, aligned with Draco at that time. The King's Chamber, of course, we know Pole Star and Orion. Good. Follow me, the family? All right. So with 2151 BC here, 41 BC, 2141 BC, the 21st of March, which is very interesting. Again, that's an equinox. And the 21st of March is also what is considered as the birthday of Heru. So the ascension carries you to 33 AD. Now, 33 AD is a very interesting date. This is said to be the date of the crucifixion and the resurrection of Christ. In fact, Christ is said to have lived for 33 years. Now, the science in that is deep, because there's nothing wrong with the 33. Many of you consider 33 to be your angel number, and 33, 33, and all of that kind of stuff. And 33 is deep. We were just talking about the equinox, not the equinox, the longitude and latitude, 30 and 31. I think one of them is actually 31 and 33 minutes. You understand? We have the 33 vertebrae within the backbone structure. There's some key places and volcanoes and so that rest, pardon me, on the 33rd degree latitudes, both north and south. And even if you go biblically, certain people, David ruled for 33 years, I think, in Jerusalem or Bethlehem. He ruled for 40 years or 40-something years in all, but 33 in a specific place. So the point is, we can go on and on with that. You know, we did a whole program on the number 33. There are many different places and times and everything that align with 33. So it's not pseudo to say, you know, 33 AD and the whole mission of Christ, because the science of 33 is deep. 33 degrees in masonry and 32 degree, and the American eagle have 33 feathers and 32 feathers in the different wingspan. So again, 33 degrees or 33 AD for Christ. The date here, the 1453, said to be the date of the Exodus. Now, be it so or not, the point is coming down here, the Exodus date really gives you a kind of ascension from going to the pit. The point is you are avoiding the pit and you're going up to the stars. And the first stop is the Christ missionary, or mission, I should say. So when you say the Christ mission, I know it's called the Queen's Chamber, but the Christ came on a mission. And the mission of the Christ is to teach the gospel. The mission of the Christ is to bring salvation. So the date is quite interesting, because most ones now, listen to me, most ones, even within Rastafari, they hold fast to the concept of the Christ. About 3380, 2,000 years ago. So I'm saying the mission of the Christ now was a mission of salvation. You understand? The mission of the gospel, then, the spreading of the gospel, as they would call it. Okay. But after you pass this mission or his mission, you come to the Grand Gallery, which really, you know, what I'm seeing here is that, remember, to get to his vibes or to the Christ level or to the Queen's Chamber, anyway you're directing this, you were bending down. You were going up, but you were bending down. And when you accept this mission here, or the Christ salvation order, any which term, you know, you want to use, when you accept this here, when you reach here, you straighten your back. I think all of that is in the science here. You may think I'm carrying it too far, but when I observe the pyramid, this is what I pick up. So when you reach here, you straighten up. You have accepted the mission of the Christ. You understand? You have accepted the concept and everything, just like in Isaiah, when the man there from Ethiopia, the eunuch, meet Philip, and Philip baptize him. Maybe you may call Philip a missionary. But, you know, terms like the missionary and what the other term, crusade, and so these are terms that we stay away from, because when the missionary them came, the missionary to me was the soft, pretending nice version of the slave master with the whip. You check it. But we fall for that. We say, oh, well, the Quakers, the Society of Friends, they taught us how to read and write. And we think that being good, that's why we drool over universities today. Institutions that were built to conform our thinking. That's why we come out as doctors, doctoring up everything. This thing deep, eh? This thing deep. I ain't telling you don't go get your degree. Get as much as you can. But please walk between the pillars of Doric and Corinth, knowing that you are Boaz and Jachin. Very important. Yeah. Okay. Even Osiris became a pillar in the temple of the king. That's deep, eh? That's deep. That's why Boaz has been immortalized as a pillar. Corinth and Doric again. Pillar on the border thereof. Eh? This is some high science. Masonry. That's what they drool off of. This is the original Masonic temple, because it's built from stones, isn't this? What kind of mason you talking about? Because it's the same thing. That's why Christ is the carpenter, the great builder. So the teachings here is going up the ascending passage. Your back's bent, but don't worry. When you reach to the Christ figure at the Queen's Chamber, 33 AD, you'll be able to straighten out your back. And then when you climb up to the King's Chamber, you will reach 1914 AD. Then you can enter that room, the same room that aligns with the Orion constellation. Now that is very important, that the date inside of the King's Chamber is 1914. King's Chamber, very important, you know. Because the king's chamber, the same chamber, beautiful, that aligns with the stars of the heavens, that align with Orion and align with Sirius and all of these different things. We're talking about the king's and the queen's chamber. But the king's chamber, Orion, and the king's chamber with the pole star. The queen's chamber, which is the same Christ chamber, Sirius, and aligned with the movements of the heavens as well. Give thanks, setting sun, everything aligned. But the date, remember, let's not run away from this. The pyramid is very important. And the pyramid has showed us everything. The pyramid has given us the solar years. The pyramid has showed us pi. The pyramid has showed us the distance from the sun to the earth and all sorts of things. And the king going up from Osiris to Orion and all of that. Should we overlook the date in the king's chamber, which is 1914? I know we did not overlook 33 AD. Even Christians use the pyramid and tell you the 33 AD represents the coming of Christ. So I would believe that 1914, listen to me good, eh? Remember, we're talking about the pyramid here. This ain't no jokey deck of cards. This is the pyramid sitting on the center of the earth. The grandest monument. Hear this, we didn't even talk about this. The 7 wonders of the world were made. All of them mash up and left one. They make another 7 wonder, including the one that was remained, and even them new 7 wonders, some of them having some serious problems staying up. The outstanding 7 wonder, both times around, United Nations, League of Nations, is the Pyramid of Khufu. So for this pyramid, which has only one date in it, 2141 BCE, 21st of March, for this pyramid, using the edge to show me all these vibes, even carrying me to the Queen's Chamber where we see the 33rd AD, 33 AD. That is the time span for the Messiah. That is key. And now we leave him, we go to the Grand Gallery and we go on to the higher chamber and we find the date 1914. What does that mean? Now, as I said, today is a very special day for me. For again, this is the day that I was crowned prophet 20 years ago, the 31st of May. Now, interestingly, I'm going to say it again, that day, the 31st of May, 2001, just before 9/11, everything, that day was 7 days, like midday, and so I get crowned, was 7 years, pardon me, to the day. It was the 7th anniversary of Prince Emmanuel Charles Edwards putting down the structure in the eyes of those who have witnessed it and relayed the story to me. I wasn't there. And I was crowned not in the guardhouse, I was crowned in the palace, the same palace here. I was crowned. And never forget it, man. Just as Emmanuel's son, Jasoi, I think his name is, he came out, little child. I think he was like 4 or 5 at the time, maybe not even 5, maybe 4. If that old, maybe 4. And he came out with his locks out and he saw the priest Zebi wrapping my turban and priest Morgan reading 2 psalms again. And the man go in the room and come back out, sit down on a little stool and start wrap his own turban. Prince Emmanuel, grandson. Yeah. It's an honor to go through them kind of mystics. Because I don't, I feel away, It was the same time Priest Harris. Priest Harris is the one that said it. And the others that witnessed him saying that. that Prince Emmanuel say, a man shall come amongst us that can read the stars. I didn't plan the crowning, son. I didn't plan it up there. In fact, that was the first time I went up there when I was crowned. So I'm saying, though, interestingly, again, information has come up now that the 31st of May is not only the date that the man made a move, ones are contesting that it's the date that the man was born. Now, that would be very interesting, you know why? Because, listen to me good, we're going to done now, not finish. Finish is people from Finland. If you're listening from Finland, happy that you're listening. But we ain't finished. But we soon done. Oh my. In terms of the celebration. Prince Emmanuel said he came in 1914. I think all Bobo worked with that. 1914. So from 1914 to 1994 would be 80 years. Okay. So he stayed with us 80 years. Now, the Buddha, his Earthday just passed 26th of May. The Buddha, the Gautama Buddha, stayed with us for 80 years. Prophet Muhammad stayed with us for 80 years. Lord Pakal of the Mayan Kingdom stayed with us for 80 years. Heru, the son of Osiris, after Osiris resurrected and all of that, Heru, his son, continued the ministry for how long? 80 years. The pyramid says, this is the pyramid. I said it earlier. The total inch value at the 35th level perimeter is exactly 80 solar years. The 35th level. Now listen to me. We have a Congress that started in 1958. We're going to do some quick maths. 1958 is the origin of our Congress. From the 1st to the 31st or 21st of March. From 1958, 68, 78, 88. You check it. Now in 1988, our Congress would celebrate or would have celebrated 30 years. It's something else, boy. 89, 90, 91, 92, 93. So in 93, 1st of March, the Congress would have celebrated 35 years. Now, the interesting vibration in that is that in 1993, there was what is known as the Feast of the Passover. That's the same time Prince Emmanuel said that he's looking to make a move. Now, I'm not going to go into the depths of that. I'm just doing the quick maths for you. So, in 93, the Congress, 35 years. And in 93, the 10th of December, and the 10th of December is the day astronomically when Orion rises. Bobo Shanti, you have the 10th of December as the feast of the Passover. You're correct. Who called that feast? Prince Emmanuel. Do you know what levels of meditation Prince Emmanuel had? Did he know that the 10th of December was known as the day of the rising of the shepherd of Anu? That's the constellation known as Sahu. in Sumer is called the Shepherd of Anu, and it rises on the 10th of December every year. So on the 10th of December, what we call the feast of the Passover as Bobo Shanti, astronomically, that's the day that Orion rise when the sun set. It's like the full moon for the Orion's belt. And Prince Emmanuel called that feast. King Emmanuel Charles Edwards called that feast on the 10th of December. To me, that's a good candidate for the Earthday too, but I ain't going to go into that. Prince Emmanuel called the feast of Passover on the 10th of December at the rising of Orion. Orion, Sahu. We've been talking about that constellation for the whole day. Remember that the king's chamber of the pyramid aligns with the constellation of Orion. And the king's chamber of the pyramid is dated to what date? 1940. And 1914 is coming from 33 AD. And I think we all agree that the Christ ended his mission in 33 AD. Let me repeat. I think we all would agree that the Christ mission was sealed up in 33 AD. Grand Gallery, straight in your back, King's Chamber, 1914. Now, I would assume that 1914 would represent either the return of the same Christ from 33 AD or something that signifies an obvious ascension of power. Because in 1914, that's when the UNIA was formed. Marcus Garvey, the UNIA was officially formed in 1914 on the 1st of August. That's the same year of World War I, but remember 1914 is also in the pit. We ain't talking about pit. We're talking about Zion. Prince Emmanuel Charles Edwards came, as he put it, in 1914. Nobody can deny that. So we got to consider this. Prince Emmanuel in his 80th year amongst us. Let me repeat this good. Prince Emmanuel in his 80th year amongst us, he's looking to leave now, organized a feast, the first of its kind. That's the only celebration that we have like that, where King Emmanuel just did one and then he not around anymore and we carried on. The only celebration of its kind, 10th of December, is a day when Orion aligned with the planet. Interesting. In his 80th year, he looking to make a move. The man that came in the year that the Great Pyramid, to me, highlight the return of the Messiah. 1940. Don't play with the pyramid. Eh? Do not play with the pyramid. I don't care what you bring. Don't ramp with the pyramid. 1914. Can you explain what 1914 means? I already give you Marcus Garvey. Maybe you can run with that. That's a good point too. But don't run from it, because I just explained that the time when the king made the move or prepared to make the move, we were celebrating the 35th anniversary of our Congress. The Congress that started in 1958. We were celebrating the 35th anniversary of the Congress in 93, going into what? 94. So the Congress was what? 35 years old. The king did what? Prince Emmanuel called the feast of the Passover that aligned with Orion. When did he come? 1914. So he was already in his what? 80th year amongst us. So Prince Emmanuel, during the 35th anniversary of our Congress, was in his 80th year amongst us. And I know some of you say, man, you're talking too long. And that's too long. Get to the point. Get to which point? We've been missing this point for 400 years. And since you're so rude, let me tell you, you can't get this point from nobody else. Let me be clear. Because I just showed you, Yeah, I just got to say it how it is. Because enough pretend as if they don't see. The total inch value at the 35th level, the 35th level perimeter represents 35 years of the Congress. This is the pyramid talking to the world. The total value at the 35th level perimeter is 80 solar years. So if a person may not comprehend what solar year, 80 solar year is 80 years. They have lunar years, they have sidereal years. We, as human beings, we work with solar years. 80 solar years is 80 years. And the pyramid says that in 80 years, solar years, that is where the 35th level align with according to the mathematics of the pyramid. And I am saying, as an individual that in my humble opinion has been gifted with the ability to unravel the mysteries, I am saying that that is signifying the 35th anniversary of the Congress and the 80th solar year of the man that has been with us since 1914, the date of the pyramid, King's Chamber, which specifically is continuing from the man in the Queen's Chamber, which is the Christ Chamber, 33 AD, keeping in mind the same pyramid is what aligning with the movements of the heavens, the same pyramid with the summer solstice, with the sun setting between Khafra and Khufu, and behind her Aket, the same pyramid again, Orion and Ursa Minor and Ursa Major and the Pole Star and Sirius and everything that has to do therewith with the same pyramid. But it is obvious that there's a science here that is beyond the scope of many in this time, as I said, but even in this time, you could see the link. Obviously, the link again with the heavens, the link with other ancient pyramids, the link even with the motherboard. Again, at the same time, I also highlighted even our book, The Heavens Declare the Glory. I would, I would encourage you to get a copy of the book, The Heavens Declare the Glory. This is an ebook. Again, you could get it on Amazon. You could get all our books on Amazon. The book Anu, Ancient and Modern, also the True Biblical Land of Israel as well. And for sure, remember in the next 2 days, this is Wednesday evening now, we're going to do another mighty lecture entitled The Mystery of the Ark. This lecture now, specifically, it won't be on YouTube. This one is online. This one is Wednesday, 2 days from now, the 2nd of June, 2021, 7 p.m. sharp as well. This one for sure, the admission only $20. You could really make your contribution using the Cash App at Ra 2723. We will put the link of the Cash App in the description below. Remember, when you make your payment for this lecture, please contact us via email, presize27@gmail.com, and we will definitely get your key, which is the key for you to enter into the lecture. We will get that to you. And I will highlight again for sure before we go, our astronomical and African history and heritage classes for the young ones. I mean, if we really love our children, as we say, I'm telling you, and we want to provide them with that psychology and of course the knowledge, but the psychology is very important. That appreciation for your African self and history and heritage is very, very key. And at the same time, the astronomical knowledge, as you could see us expressing here, when you have a knowledge of this, the core of this, a lot of what we're saying is almost like, as they say, water off of the duck's back. So you could get a copy of this brochure, as I said, just contact me, precise27@gmail.com, and we send you a copy of the brochure. We have a short video that gives you some more information as it relates to this. And as I said, this is something that the children definitely won't get weary of. The videos are nice and neat and short, not no long lecture like this. I don't think, between 15, 20 minutes daily though. They get it every day, something fresh. They can look at it twice and then move on to another subject area. So give thanks again for your presence. And of course, let me remind you one more time that you have until the 7th day of June to get the early bird tickets for the hike to Green Castle Hill, double hike, solstice, summer solstice, virtual edition right here in Antigua. I'm going to do a very special presentation similar to this. I will be doing a presentation very soon entitled Heliopolis Ancient and Modern, and I'll be doing that before the summer solstice virtual edition. So keep looking out for that. All you got to do is subscribe to the channel and press the notification bell. So when anything comes on, you know it's right there. That's all. Hey, do give thanks to the life giver and the keeper of life. Looking forward to seeing you on the Shock of the Hour. If you're not a subscriber to the Shock of the Hour, our nightly radio program, listen, it's obvious that we have so many things to offer. So many things. So for sure, if you are a follower of this work, I would assume just in appreciation alone, you would have patronized us in one way or the other. So let me give thanks for that. Life giver and the keeper of life, Holy Emmanuel, Haile Selassie, Jah Rastafari. Yes, Lord.